I want you to take a moment to just listen to me yap for a moment about how everything is a system. Let me actually take this into slideshow mode. So this is something that means a lot to me, because I like to sort of boil things down into like really manageable chunks in my own head, and I feel like if I feel like it might be useful for other people as well. So basically, my thesis is this: everything is a system, and this goes down to even the smallest things to even the biggest things, whether you're looking at nature or business or technology. And I'm just going to be talking about like how I view things, especially as someone who builds AI automated systems. This is something that's very important to me, and I think if you like look at it from like a certain point of view, whatever you're going through in your life, you might start to find like some ways that you could like reflect this. So let's start with the inputs. So inputs are basically the building blocks of like anything that ever happens. So think about um, when you're cooking, right? The ingredients that you use, those are inputs. When you are doing anything in life, like if you get a phone call, that is a input to a conversation you could have with someone. If you're trying to maybe like apply for a job or something, then an email would be an input to that, or like putting in your resume would be an input to that. Or I guess in my country we call it a CV, but it's the exact same thing. So like a single idea could just be an input to like having in like a really interesting way to like solve a problem. um, there's so many different ways of like how inputs actually manifest themselves. In the AI and automation, you find that we normally see this as like raw data that feeds into automations, but I think it goes beyond that because in a way, an input would be your perspective on like how you actually see the problem to begin with. So, say hypothetically, you want a way to sort of shorten the time it takes for you to contact your leads. You could, so if you are geared towards using emails, you could solve that with emails. If you're geared towards doing that with voice AI, you could solve that with some kind of voice AI agent, right? That your input is your perspective already. And then even beyond that, it'll be the input that is actually the platform that you're going to be using. So it's your system, meaning your credentials, everything you've set up, your experience that you've already had like built up in all the time that you've been building automations and helping people solve their problems. Um, and yeah, basically, I guess you could say all of this is just raw data that feeds in to what happens next. And you might be wondering what happens next. That's the system. That is the thing that actually delivers the transformation, which is the output. We're going to talk about the system right now. So the system is the heart of the matter. It's stage two. I like to think of things as input systems and outputs, but in a way, systems themselves have a way of like sort of like going beyond their scope. So um, think of an input as a system in and of itself, and the output as a system in and of itself. The concept of what input of what systems actually mean is like it isn't something that I can just put down simply. I'm just gonna give you like a basic concept of like what how I think about things though. So the systems are basically anything that transforms the inputs into something new, something um, ideally useful, right? And we see these everywhere. Like an example is your metabolism, right? So the input would be you eat something, and your metabolism would be how your body, breaks it down into all these different useful parts that actually go towards the other, the rest of your body, and they actually like feed the machine that is your body. And in everyday life, you could think of it like a washing machine, right? The input would be your clothes and soap and everything else, and the washing machine would be the system that delivers you clean clothes. In the automation, it would be a complex, complex workflow that takes your data and then it applies algorithms to it. So think about these algorithms as systems in and of themselves. Like as I said before, how systems have a way of like sort of going outwards and then outwards and then outwards. Like it's kind of an interesting thing, but it really like it's because of this complexity and its simplicity. Like it's because of this dichotomy. It's why having the right systems in place is so important. Like you could say you could like approach a problem in a way like a certain way, and then if you get sort of results that maybe, let's say, if we were to give it some kind of numerical value, it would be like a 1.2 or something, but you want a numerical value of 2, then that means that your systems are just not delivering the right outputs, right? So at the end of the day, when it comes to an automation, systems are everything, and I know this for a fact because I use systems in my business. I'll give you an example. I just took on a client work, a piece of work for a client, and basically the idea is to design a system that can interact with cameras, do some kind of motion capture. So whenever there's motion capture from the camera, the system actually takes that sort of data, not the data itself, but it triggers a workflow whereby it ends up activating some kind of system, I guess a speaker system that speaks to any passerby. So the motion detection would detect a customer who's passing by, and then that speaker system would start speaking to them. So it would be like some kind of voice agent, customer support, which is, it's so flippin' cool. But when you think about these types of things, and then you realize how many businesses actually have these, the answer is none. I mean, okay, how many businesses can you actually count? The answer is none. And then when you think about in the future how many businesses would have these, the answer is probably every business. And it wouldn't just be like speaking voice agents who are telling you about what products the store has, or like what offerings they have, or like their opening times, or who to contact, or what to do with lost items, or like all these different services. These would all be taken care of by like humans on premises. But if you could have like literal monitors, which is what normal stores have these days anyway, and then you just integrate voice AI into them, and camera systems that are capable of like capturing motion and like speaking to people, you could literally replace such a huge part of the whole sort of population of people who actually do those jobs. And like I was reading something from Dan Koh this morning, and he said something like AI will take your job, and this was something like, it was just a fun thing that I was playing around with maybe a few months. Actually, I remember making a video about this in September of last year, how I wanted to create like systems that could basically automate the need for any sort of significant person in my AI agency. And back then it was just like an idea I was playing around with. I still hadn't sort of figured it out. Now that I've like gained all this knowledge, I know it's definitely possible, because I know that like this is literally what I'm doing right now, literally getting rid of the need for customer support people. Like it's so incredible, and this is just the power of systems. Well, like with the right inputs, which is like a knowledge base, you could literally just model a customer support person and then literally replace them, because that's the thing with code, you have like almost infinite leverage, as Naval always says. Like you can just take that code and then put it somewhere else, and then you'd have the exact same system again and again and again and again and again. It's kind of insane, but yeah. I mean, with the right inputs and the right systems, you obviously have the right outputs. So the outputs are basically the remnants of any process that happens, right? Everyone knows this. It's the end result, the finished product. It's probably what anyone ever wants from like anyone else. So think about when you're trying to deliver a service, right? Your client probably doesn't want you. Your client doesn't want to know everything that went into what you did to build the workflow or the system. They just want the actual output. They want a working thing that they can rely on again and again to deliver them results. So yeah, we see outputs everywhere. So in the case of the first example that I actually spoke about, where we were talking about like cooking, this would be the meal that you actually get to eat. But funnily enough, even outputs themselves are sort of not simple at all, because in the way outputs are inputs to other processes. So the food is just an input to your body, which relates to the metabolism that we spoke about as a system that gives your body nutrients. So those nutrients are the output, but they're also the input towards your movement. And then your movement inspires, doing really big things, delivering impact, transforming the lives of other people. And that output is the growth of your business. But that's an input towards something else. Everything is relating to another thing, everything is connected. And in AI and automation, I try to apply this in my own ways as well. Like, if you were trying to build some kind of system that was contacting people through emails, and I've done this before, I generally don't like cold emails. I feel like they're not really that good. I'd rather build a relationship with someone before. Actually, what I tend to do is I build a relationship based on me giving someone sort of not something for free, but just something that proves my capabilities to them. So yeah, it could be free or it could be like paid or whatever. But I just want to prove myself as much as I possibly can. That like decreases as much of the friction as possible. Um, and in a way, that is like my first sort of output. But it's also an input towards sort of building a relationship based on trust and the sort of the knowledge that I am capable of delivering transformations. So yeah, basically, let me just tie it all together. I see everything as inputs, systems, and outputs, and I feel like even the craziest problems in the universe can be broken down into input systems and outputs. Because as I said before, everything is connected, everything is interrelated, and everything matters. So as long as you focus on the right inputs, the right systems, and the right outputs, there's no way you won't get the right results. If you're trying to get sort of result like say if we were to put some kind of numerical value on it, a result of 10 with an input of 1, then you have to have a system that is giving you 10x, right? Of course. So understand, if you don't know the numerical value of your input or your function, then you have to like design them like to be as best as possible. If you can only have a function that delivers you 5x, maybe you should be changing your input. Maybe you should change your input from a 1 to a 2, and so on and so forth. And if you like play around with these concepts like again and again, like iteratively, where even your outputs can become inputs towards other things as well, you start realizing like really, really big connections that you never thought of before. Like right now, I'm building a system that basically sort of goes all the way from lead generation to whereby it scrapes sort of leads from YouTube, people I want to work with, like coaches and people who are trying to monetize their online presence. And then it goes on and it sort of grabs their information and then it scores them based on their recent performances of their videos and so on and so forth. Sort of things like how many subscribers they have, how many comments they have on the videos, like the engagement rate, how many views they have on their videos, and so on and so forth. Like this scores them, so that's lead generation. Now it's lead qualification, where it's like it's scoring them. So I don't even have to look at who they are before they even like qualified enough, because I only want to pay attention to the most qualified of them. But even still, like that output, so the most qualified leads, that's just another input, right? According to my perspective, that's just another input towards lead nurturing. So what this section does is it grabs sort of information about them, probably from their videos or from any sort of online presence that they have. This could be like scraped from any websites they have in their descriptions, video descriptions. It grabs these and then it scrapes through, grabs all that data, runs it through. Okay, I'm not gonna go through like basically everything, but basically it creates sort of an idea of who they are, and then it creates personalized outreach messaging templates basically. And I could send these out at any moment if I actually want to. That's personalized outreach as well. So it's outreach messages, it's sales assets, like anything involved in sort of developing a relationship with someone, and then leading towards conversion. But again, even that is nothing more than an input to the next process, which is conversion. And then even conversion is an input to the next process, which is sales, and then even that is an input towards the next process, which is fulfillment. Everything is interrelated, everything is connected, and my main thing is just to make sure that everything I do is intentional. With the right inputs, the right systems, and the right outputs, I'm sure I'll get the right results. And I hope that you do the exact same thing in your own business. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.